The story of Natalie Harp is a modern saga of unexpected turns, personal crisis, political devotion, and unprecedented access in the halls of American power. From a quiet upbringing in suburban California to becoming one of the most omnipresent fixtures in the daily life of Donald Trump, her path offers a compelling lens into how personal hardship can dramatically reshape a life and catapult an individual into the national spotlight. This is not merely a political biography but a deeply human story about survival, loyalty, and the strange alchemy that transforms ordinary people into extraordinary figures in the corridors of power. Born in 1991 into a devoutly Christian family in California, Natalie Harp grew up in an environment deeply grounded in faith and conservative values. Her early years were spent in a household where religion was not merely a Sunday obligation but the very framework through which life was understood and navigated. She and her brother were homeschooled during their formative years, an arrangement that fostered a tight-knit family structure and instilled a disciplined, religious worldview that would remain with her throughout her life. Her father, Robert Harp, was a real estate broker who later founded a consultancy for travel companies and served as a business professor, providing Natalie with early exposure to the worlds of commerce and education. Continuing her education within faith-based institutions, Harp attended Point Loma Nazarene University, a Christian liberal arts college in San Diego, where she earned a Bachelor of Business Administration in 2012. The university, perched on cliffs overlooking the Pacific Ocean, offered her both academic rigor and spiritual reinforcement. But she was not finished with her educational pursuits. Eager to advance her business skills, she enrolled at Liberty University, an evangelical institution in Lynchburg, Virginia, founded by the late Jerry Falwell and widely regarded as the epicenter of conservative Christian higher education. There, she completed her Master of Business Administration in Marketing in 2015. Her academic journey reflected a young woman who understood the value of credentials and the importance of aligning herself with institutions that shared her values. Her early career followed a conventional path for a business graduate with ambition. She secured work in hotel network operations and client management, roles that developed her skills in communication, logistics, and navigating corporate hierarchies. These positions were respectable, they were predictable, and they were about to become entirely irrelevant to the trajectory her life would soon take. The carefully constructed world of corporate advancement was about to be shattered by forces beyond her control. In her mid-20s, Harp faced a life-threatening medical ordeal after being diagnosed with stage 2 bone cancer. The diagnosis arrived like a thunderbolt, disrupting every assumption she had made about her future. Suddenly, the ambitious young businesswoman was reduced to a patient, her days measured in medical appointments, treatment schedules, and endless calculations about survival. The American dream had taken a sharp and terrifying detour. But the crisis was compounded by a catastrophic medical error that would haunt her for years. During her treatment journey, a nurse accidentally mixed up in 4-bag, an event that left her severely weakened, housebound, and in chronic pain. The exact substance that entered her body has never been publicly specified, but the consequences were devastating. She emerged from what should have been a routine treatment with lasting damage that would require ongoing management. The trust she had placed in the medical establishment was shattered, and she was left to navigate the wreckage of her health while also fighting the cancer that had originally threatened her life. This brush with mortality transformed her daily life and personal outlook. Standard therapies proved difficult, and the medical establishment seemed to have few answers for her ongoing suffering. Seeking alternatives, she became a vocal advocate for healthcare choice, discovering the Right to Try Act, a 2018 federal law allowing terminally ill patients access to experimental treatments that had not yet received full FDA approval. For Harp, this legislation was not abstract policy, it was a lifeline, a concrete manifestation of the principle that patients should have options when conventional medicine fails them. In 2019, she made the decision to go public with her medical journey, crediting the Right to Try Act with saving her life. She wrote about her experience, sharing the intimate details of her struggle with a national audience. Her story appeared on major cable news networks, where she was invited to share her testimony with viewers. She was articulate, compelling, and visually sympathetic, a young woman who had faced death and emerged with a powerful story to tell. The timing was fortuitous, as the Trump administration had championed the Right to Try Act, and here was a living testament to its significance. Her political awakening was swift. She was invited to speak at the 2020 Republican National Convention, a platform usually reserved for seasoned politicians and celebrity endorsers. Standing on the biggest conservative stage in America, she shared her story with millions of viewers, cementing her place in the political consciousness of the party. She also served on an advisory board for Trump's presidential campaign, formalizing her entry into the world of high-level politics. The young woman who had been fighting for her life just years earlier had become a symbol of conservative healthcare policy, a living proof of concept for the legislation the administration had championed. Following her political exposure, Harp transitioned into media, serving as a television host for One American News Network between 2020 and 2022. The position suited her polished on-camera presence and her ability to articulate conservative perspectives with conviction. She was professional, articulate, and capable of delivering the network's viewpoint with the kind of confidence that comes from genuine belief. But even as she found success in media, her ambitions were pulling her elsewhere. After departing the network, she officially joined Trump's inner circle as a key communications aide during his political campaigns and subsequent presidency. Within political and media circles, Harp became famous for her distinct operational role. Often described colloquially as a human printer, she earned the moniker because she frequently travels alongside the president carrying a portable printer, ensuring he receives immediate paper printouts of positive news stories, commentary, and social media updates. The origin of this unusual role is telling. Harp had observed that the president preferred physical documents, paper he could hold, read at his own pace, and process without the distractions of screens. In an age of digital everything, this preference for tangible information created a gap that she was uniquely positioned to fill. She made it her mission to curate favorable content and deliver it in the format he preferred. It sounds simple, but in the chaotic environment of presidential politics, where everyone is competing for attention and influence, having a physical document that the president can hold and read represents a significant advantage. In addition to curating hard copy news feeds, she serves as a gatekeeper for communications and directly assists in managing official social media posts. Her role extends beyond mere printing to encompass the strategic management of information flow. She determines what reaches the president, how it is presented, and when it is delivered. This is extraordinary power for someone whose official title is Executive Assistant and Special Assistant to the President, with a listed annual salary of $150,000. Her influence far exceeds her formal position, deriving instead from proximity and trust. When it comes to money, Natalie Harp's situation reflects the complicated intersection of private ambition and public service. While exact details of her overall net worth are not entirely public, her financial status reflects her transition from private corporate roles and media production to high-level political staff positions. Public government financial disclosures list her annual salary as an executive assistant and special assistant to the president at $150,000. This represents a comfortable living, but hardly the kind of wealth associated with the highest echelons of political power. Prior to her government service, her earnings stemmed from her work as a television host for One American News Network and her prior roles in hospitality operations and consulting. These positions provided a solid foundation, though they don't suggest extraordinary wealth. What is interesting about Harp's financial situation is how it reflects the changing nature of political influence. In previous eras, people like her, close advisors, gatekeepers, trusted confidants, often had independent wealth or came from families that were already well-connected. Harp appears to have built her position from the ground up, leveraging personal experience and timing rather than inherited advantage. The question of her net worth also opens up broader conversations about the economics of proximity. In the orbit of a former president and current candidate, access is a form of capital. The ability to connect people with powerful figures, to influence decisions behind the scenes, to control the flow of information, these are assets that can translate into financial opportunities over time. For Harp, the financial calculation appears to be long-term. Her position gives her something that no amount of corporate advancement could provide: unique access, unique trust, and a unique role in history. She is not accumulating wealth in the traditional sense, but she is accumulating something perhaps more valuable: influence. Lifestyle and influence are inextricably linked for Natalie Harp. Her entire existence now revolves around her role in the Trump orbit. She travels constantly, her life measured not in days but in campaign stops, golf courses, and government appointments. There is no real separation between her professional and personal life. The two have merged into a single, relentless routine of service and proximity. She is regularly seen accompanying high-profile political operations, moving through the chaos of campaign trails and the formality of government offices with equal ease. Her medical struggles have shaped her lifestyle in profound ways. The chronic pain that resulted from the medical error never fully resolved, and she continues to manage her health while maintaining a punishing schedule. In some ways, this constant activity seems almost like a form of defiance, a refusal to let her physical limitations define her. She channels her survival into service, transforming the trauma of her medical ordeal into a relentless commitment to her work and her role. In a political environment where turnover is constant and loyalty is often fleeting, Harp has distinguished herself through her unwavering commitment. When many former advisors departed during transitional political periods, she remained. When others questioned the direction of the campaign or the viability of the political project, she continued printing, continued facilitating, continued serving as a bridge between external figures and executive leadership. Her presence has become so constant, so expected, that she's become a kind of fixture, visible to those who pay attention, invisible to those who don't. Observers often highlight her absolute loyalty, which stood out during transitional political periods when many former advisors departed. Her direct access to major communication channels allows her to act as a primary bridge between external figures and executive leadership, making her one of the most distinct behind-the-scenes figures in modern American political history. Critics have described her role with varying levels of cynicism, suggesting she is simply a purveyor of flattery who ensures the president only sees what makes him happy. Supporters argue that she is performing a vital function. In the chaos of modern communication, someone has to filter and curate to ensure that important information doesn't get lost in the noise. What does Natalie Harp represent in the broader context of American politics? The answer to this question reveals much about how power operates in the modern era. She is not a policymaker, not a campaign strategist in the traditional sense, not a public figure seeking attention. Instead, she represents something more elemental: the importance of personal loyalty in an age of transactional politics. Her story resonates because it is fundamentally human. A young woman faced with mortality, devastated by medical error, saved by policy, and then transformed by her experience into one of the most trusted figures in presidential politics. The arc of her life reflects the strange and unpredictable ways that personal crisis can open doors that would otherwise remain closed. In the court of Donald Trump, where loyalty is the ultimate currency, Natalie Harp has become extraordinarily wealthy. Her wealth is not measured in dollars but in trust, in access, in the knowledge that she has a direct line to the most powerful figure in American politics. This is a form of capital that cannot be easily quantified but cannot be easily denied either. There is also something profoundly American about her story. It is a narrative of survival, of overcoming adversity, of turning personal tragedy into public purpose. In this sense, she embodies a distinctly American archetype: the self-made person who builds influence not through inheritance or advantage but through grit, timing, and an almost supernatural ability to be in the right place at the right time. Her constant presence and unique influence inside high-level political spaces have made her a frequent subject of public interest. The media speculates about her role, political opponents question her influence, and supporters celebrate her loyalty. Yet through all of this, she remains a somewhat enigmatic figure, visible yet elusive, influential yet officially subordinate, present yet always operating in the shadows. The moniker "human printer" is both accurate and profound. Harp transforms digital information into physical documents, intangible data into tangible paper. In doing so, she performs a kind of modern alchemy, converting the chaos of the information age into the kind of communication that still feels real in an increasingly virtual world. She is the woman with the printer, always there, always ready, always loyal. But the printer is also a metaphor for something deeper. Harp prints not just documents but narratives. She curates the information that reaches the president, shaping his perception of events, his understanding of how his message is being received, his sense of what is happening in the world beyond his immediate view. This is power of a subtle but significant kind, the power of the gatekeeper who determines what information reaches the decision-maker. In the end, perhaps Natalie Harp's story is simply a reminder that in American politics, as in life, the most influential people are often the ones you barely notice. The ones who are always present but rarely seen, always serving but never celebrated, always working but never acknowledged. She found her purpose through survival. She found her power through proximity. And in the process, she became one of the most remarkable figures in a political era defined by the remarkable. Natalie Harp's journey from a devout Christian household in California to the inner sanctum of presidential politics is a story of transformation, survival, and extraordinary loyalty. Her early life, grounded in faith and conservative values, provided the foundation for a worldview that would later align perfectly with the political movement she would join. Her medical crisis, devastating though it was, opened doors that her business credentials alone could never have accessed. Her transition from advocate to media personality to communications aide reflects a career built on timing, personal narrative, and an almost intuitive understanding of how power operates. Her role as the human printer is both a practical function and a profound metaphor for her broader significance. She curates the information that reaches the most powerful figure in American politics, determining what he sees, when he sees it, and how it is presented. This is influence of a kind that does not appear on any organizational chart but is nonetheless very real. In an age of information overload, the ability to filter and curate is a form of power that is often underestimated but never insignificant. Her financial situation, while not extraordinary in conventional terms, reflects the economics of proximity and influence. She is not accumulating wealth in the traditional sense, but she is accumulating something perhaps more valuable: trust, access, and a unique place in history. Whether one views her with admiration or skepticism, it is impossible to deny that she has become one of the most distinct behind-the-scenes figures in modern American political history. In the end, Natalie Harp represents something essential about the nature of power in the modern era. Power is not always held by those with the most impressive titles or the largest bank accounts. Sometimes it is held by those who are simply there, always present, always reliable, always ready to serve. The woman with the printer has become a symbol of this truth, a reminder that in the corridors of power, the most important people are often the ones you barely notice.